TValue Direct for Salesforce. The TValue Direct for Salesforce application gives us the ability to use the complete loan and lease structuring abilities of the TValue amortization software from within the powerful Salesforce platform. For those of you that are not yet familiar with TValue, let me start with a quick preview of the online edition of TValue that has been incorporated into Salesforce. What we're seeing here is the main screen of TValue Online. This main screen is really an easy yet flexible interface that allows us to construct any type of calculation that we might need to work with, whether it's a loan or a lease, from simple to complex. In structuring our calculation, we'll first start off with the compounding period that would be applicable for our calculation, anywhere from daily up to annual. Then we'll come over and we can enter in an interest rate, or we can actually solve for a yield. In this case, we'll put in a 5% rate. And then we'll come down to our first cash flow line. And TValue makes its calculations based on the series of cash flow lines that we enter. Each cash flow line consists of an event, a date, an amount, and a number, which may function in the case of payments as the term. For a loan, if we're needing to calculate an APR where we have some additional points or fees, we can enter that information into TValue. Once we have our loan amount entered, we can come down to the second cash flow line, and in this example, we're just going to calculate a simple payment amount. We can work with the dates that are defaulted for us. And we can put in a payment. In this case, we could designate that as our unknown by typing the letter U for unknown. We can then come over to the amount and enter in a term. In this case, we'll say 60 months. And then at this point, we can click on the Calculate button. TValue will show us the payment amount that's calculated based on the interest rate and the term. Now, it's that simple to calculate a nice regular payment in TValue, but it also has the ability to deal with irregular payments, almost anything that you could imagine. We can click on the Expand button, and what that shows us is each payment individually that we could then go in and modify, whether it's by payment amount or by payment date. We can even insert lines to enter additional payments in our cash flow. Once we're done modifying that, we can click on Compress to bring it right back where it was, and it would also include any irregularities that we had. But TValue will also generate a series of irregular payments for us. And what I mean by that is what TValue calls the special series. And in special series, that would allow you to generate cash flows such as interest-only payments, or perhaps actually generate a series of cash flows where your payments step up or step down by a certain amount, or perhaps a certain percentage, let's say factoring in an inflation factor. We can also generate a series of payments where certain months are actually skipped, and the other payments that are not skipped takes into account those skipped months. So very flexible for even generating irregular payments. The compute settings in TValue Online allow us to meet the requirements of the particular loan that we're structuring, whether it's from normal compound interest to simple interest. We can also adjust year length and even 30/360 calculation. Then after we have our setting set up for our calculation and we've calculated our payment amount, we can then quickly generate an amortization schedule. And the amortization schedules in TValue are very popular. You may be familiar with them already. And the schedules themselves, of course, they show dates and payments, but they also break down your payments at interest and principal and then an overall balance. Once you have that schedule produced, you can edit the format of the schedule itself, whether it's including certain totals or particular rates that are displayed. You can also edit the format as far as which sections appear on the schedule. And once you have that set, you can even display your fiscal year totals to whichever month is appropriate. If you'd like to display just a portion of the schedule, you can do that by just defining the report range. Then once we have all that set up, to export or output the schedule, we can output that directly to an Excel spreadsheet, a Word document, to a CSV format, which is handy for working within Excel, or of course we can display that readily right into a PDF format. So that gives you a glimpse into the flexibility of the TValue amortization software. So within TValue integrated right within Salesforce, we are now able to perform a calculation, whether it's simple or complex, and instantly have all that cash flow data and amortization schedule written right to Salesforce. And it'll be available for easily creating quotes or pricing proposals. And we can also use TValue Direct for Salesforce within an opportunity, a lead, or a custom object. So let's now look at how TValue Direct for Salesforce works. Now for this demonstration, we're going to use TValue Direct for Salesforce in an opportunity. And TValue will utilize certain customer information from the opportunity to create its calculations. For instance, in this example, we'll include the quoted lease amount. We'll include the rate, the term, whether the payments are upfront or in arrears. Now, we can also include a commission or a buyout or residual. Now, all of this same information will also be displayed in the quote template fields, which we will be seeing next. So to open up TValue Direct for Salesforce, we'll click on the TValue Quotes dropdown and click New. From there, we'll select the appropriate template. TValue Direct for Salesforce currently has 2 template options available to us. And these templates serve as a time-saving feature that provide a means to quickly and accurately structure and calculate payments on a basic loan or a basic lease. You can see the templates there. Now we're going to calculate a lease, so we'll select the standard lease template. And I'm going to give this quote a name, and I'm going to call it Option 1. Now, you'll notice that the information from the opportunity that we had is displayed in the TValue input fields that we see here, and it'll populate the fields in the TValue Direct for Salesforce below, which we see here. Now, notice that all the event names, the dates, and the amounts are now perfectly arranged in that TValue cash flow matrix that we saw earlier. So to calculate payments, once we have all of our cash flow lines entered, we'll simply click the Calculate icon on the ribbon. And what we'll see now, we'll notice that the upfront payments and the monthly payments that we had talked about are displayed in the Amount field. So we can see that it's that easy to create a quote. But let's say we want to provide our customer with a couple different payment options to choose from. In this case, let's say we'd like to increase the term to 60 months. So let's see how we can easily create another quote for that scenario. First, we'll click Save, and then we'll clone that particular quote by clicking Clone. This gives us an easy starting point for our next quote. And we'll change the name of this quote to Option 2, and we'll adjust the term from 48 to 60 months. And then to get that information into TValue Direct for Salesforce, we'll click Populate. Here, what we'll do is check to ensure that all the changes are now displayed in the cash flow matrix properly, and then we'll calculate the payments. So we can repeat this pattern for 3, 4, or really any number of times that we'd like to regenerate different quotes. For this demo, we'll stick with just 2 payment options that we've calculated. So now we'll click on Save and Close to ultimately arrive back at the opportunity. Now when we're back in the opportunity, we'll see in the TValue quote area, and we can see both payment options there on the right. Now to see a quick summary of a quote, we can just simply hover over the quote number and we'll see that summary. But when we click on a quote, on the left now we'll see all of the TValue data related to the loan or lease structure, including payment amounts and interest rates. If we have a need for the information contained only on the amortization schedule, we can click View All beneath the amortization section. Now what we see now is all the data found on the amortization schedule, and this would include the individual payments, the interest and principal paid, as well as the overall principal balance. Now any of this information can be used to create quotes, proposals, or contracts. So now let's go back to the opportunity. Now, after we've sent out a proposal and our customer decides which payment option is best, we can go to that option and click Edit. Now, when the T-value quote opens, we'll check the selected checkbox and then click Save and Close to display the T-value data from that selected quotes in the Details section of the opportunity. Now, the T-value templates are very helpful, but you're not limited to using just a standard loan or lease template. These templates can also serve as a starting point for doing more complex deal structuring. Now, to show you how this works, I'm going to open up another opportunity. And in this opportunity, what we're going to see is that we have a loan amount of $350,000, and that's at 4.35% for 10 years. And we have our monthly payments in arrears. Now we're going to start by clicking on the T-value quotes drop-down, selecting New, and then selecting a standard loan template. We're going to label our quote appropriately. And then we're going to click on Populate to structure the cash flows in TValue Direct for Salesforce. Okay, so there we can see our starting point. So once we have the standard loan configuration established, we can then begin to amend the loan structure right within TValue Direct for Salesforce. So in this case, in the amount field on line 2, we're going to start with 0 payments, $0 amount. So we'll make that 0, and we're going to do that for 6 months. So we'll change 120 to 6. Notice how the dates have been changed to reflect the 6 months of no payments. Next, we'll go down to line 3. We'll have start our payments up again. And in this case, we're going to calculate the remaining payments. We're going to type U for unknown in the payment amount, and the remaining payment numbers, we have 114 of them remaining. That'll represent the 114 remaining payments on the 10-year term. Then we'll click on Calculate to see the calculated payment amount for that remaining term of $38.35. We can then check Selected and then Save and Close. Now we'll see the information from the calculation, which we can find in the selected T-value quote calculations area on the left there. And also we'll see it in the calculated payment fields, both within the opportunity here. And we can see the details of the loan we just structured. We have our 6 initial 0 payments, and then we have our 114 payments of $38.35. So it's that simple to then start with a standard loan template and use the flexibility of TValue Direct for Salesforce to customize those payments. We can now use the data from these fields to map directly into our pricing proposals and contracts. Now, in addition to the calculation flexibility that we've seen that TValue Direct for Salesforce gives us, we also have administrative capabilities to establish and control calculation and default settings in TValue. The Salesforce Company Administrator for TValue Direct for Salesforce can easily set the defaults for all users. If we click on the Setup gear, we can go to the Quick Find and type in Custom Meta to find our custom metadata types. And there we can click on, let's say, Manage Records for the TValue Compute options, where we can now modify the compute setup for TValue Direct for Salesforce for our users. This setup might include the compute method, whether that's going to be simple or compounded, or perhaps even the year length, whether it's 360 days or 365. And we'll also have the ability to manage any default input settings, such as compounding frequency, monetary punctuation, or even international settings. And any changes that are made by the administrator, they'll be applied to all users within the company. Well, this concludes our preview of TValue Direct for Salesforce. If you would like to take TValue Direct for Salesforce for a test drive to get a better feel for how it can assist you with your workflow, go to the TValue Direct for Salesforce page in the Salesforce App Exchange. Thank you so much for your time.